Welcome to Conversations with Toy, a blogcast tackling life one episode at a time. This is the time to air out life's craziest moments. This space is all about speaking about life's hang-ups and ways in which we can leave better than when we started. Topics are all about ways we can find space to be better in life, love, mental space, and health.
Happy Friday. I hope that you have had the most amazing week. If this is your first time tuning into Conversations with Toy, welcome. I am Toy, the podcaster, but I'm also a content creator, freelance writer, blogger. What else? I do a lot with a lot, as well as I have two very important titles, and that is being a mom and a wife. And I love those titles as well. On my podcast, I'm going to be talking about things like self-care, mental health, and wellness. Always. It will always integrate itself because that is what birthed this whole content creation journey, then turned into a podcast. So I am super excited. First of all, let me give a super huge apology to all of you that listen. First of all, I never came back and said that I was taking a break. Because in all truthfulness, I was not. I was not planning to take a break. It started with week 1 for the 2 weeks that I've been away. And when I say away, I just mean not doing the podcast. The first week was a conflict in scheduling. Just could not get the scheduling together for myself. And I didn't want to overwork my thought process, my brain. I just didn't want to do it. And I have been very dedicated to making sure that this podcast comes out on Friday on time and all the things, but I could not, in my good consciousness, see how I could pull off week 1. So week 1 happened. I did not do a podcast. I think I made an announcement maybe on my Facebook for Toy Time Facebook page, but I never said anything else. So for that, let me apologize. However, the second week, which is this week that just passed, was literally a personal nightmare for me in my home. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we get into the podcast. But since I haven't, you haven't heard my voice, I have not come before you. So much has happened. I cannot wait to share. One of the things that I'm really grateful for is just being grateful. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but being grateful, just being grateful is just something about it. I am in full gratefulness right now. The way things have been happening in my life, good, bad, or indifferent, I have to thank God. And I know not everybody believes in it, but that's what I choose to believe. And I just want to say I thank God. I am so grateful for the things that have happened. And I am so grateful for just keeping my mind stayed in perfect peace, for allowing me to just be able to just be present, just to be present. I think the last time that I came before you, I believe I had my kids on the episode where we talked about Mother's Day, and I am so grateful. The warmth that you guys gave them has just been so outstanding. I've been receiving so many messages and DMs. If you're not following me on social media, make sure you do that. I am at Toy Time Blog. So that's ToiTimeblog, all one word. And just thank you. So follow me on everything social. If there's a social and I have it, it's going to be at Toy Time Blog. But since then, the kids are out of school officially. I am super grateful for that. The kids really did a great job this whole entire year. I can't even just say semester. The entire year, my kids showed up and showed out for their education. And there's nothing that I can complain about when it comes to that. They are super respectful. And for the most part, they do what is necessary. And I am just ecstatic. Like, I'm just a happy and proud parent. My husband as well. And it's just amazing when you have good children who are getting up in age and learning how to represent themselves first, and then learning how to represent their family, teaching them how to have that self-respect for themselves, because sometimes as parents, we press this whole, you got to respect the parents, you got to respect the fact that you represent for the family. But if they don't respect themselves, you can make them fake it till they make it when it comes to respecting you. You can make them fake it till they make it to respect your family. But if they don't respect themselves, I feel like that is the lesson, like pushing that self-respect, because when you have that self-respect, it won't allow you to act out of character. Yes, they're kids. They're going to make kids mistake. Nobody is doubting that. I know for a fact that my kids are going to make mistakes. And as they become older, they're going to make mistakes. The one thing that I always tell them is that if your mistake is going to change your life to the point where you can't reverse Uno on the choices that you are making, it's probably not a good decision to make. Because sometimes we make decisions because we know there's a way out. Right? You know that somebody's going to bail you out. You know that somebody will carry you when you fall. And those are great support systems, to know that you feel supported and loved, that no matter what you do, somebody is going to stand in your corner, even at your worst. That is grace. That is love. That is all the things. But if you're making decisions that you know has no weight, you know is going to lead your life to a place you don't want it to be, then to continue to make that mistake on the premise that somebody else will come and clean up my messes is not something that we're trying to teach our kids. We are trying to teach them how to have emotional intelligence when it comes to how they move. Granted, let me be very clear, because y'all will find a way. As they get older, your mistakes get greater. They don't become less. The mistakes come greater. The weight of the decision-making process becomes greater. The fact that you have to be able to stand 10 toes down on whatever decision you make as you matriculate into adulthood changes. While they're under our care, are they going to make mistakes? Some mistakes you can't get back. Listen, there are kids right now that are children by age, but are being tried as adult, because when you make a decision and it's that bad, there's no way for them to just be like, okay, well, you're a kid, we're going to come that way. It doesn't always happen. But as people, as general humans, we are responsible for the consequences of our actions. And I feel like sometimes we need to be reminded as adults that we are responsible for the consequences of our actions, the weight in which we put ourselves into that you may not always be able to get out of. There has been times when I've seen people who have had money and it won't get them out of stuff because some things cannot be dealt with and cleaned with a check. We know a lot can. Oh, yes, ma'am, a lot can. But not everything. So because I've been away for 2 weeks, I have had a lot happening in my life, which I'm grateful for. Just a lot of things. By the time you guys are listening to this podcast, I am going to be commissioned to do a panel. And I'm so grateful for the opportunities that come my way. I have always been so humble about that, because let me tell you something. When I talk about like mental health and wellness, I cannot give you advice as far as what a therapist would tell you, because I'm not licensed for that. Can't tell you any of that. What I can tell you is what worked for me. And what I can tell you are the things that I struggle with. And I can tell you the things that I have overcome, and I can tell you the things that made me slide back, backsliding, like they used to say back in church. But one of the things that I remember very vividly in the cusp of being in postpartum depression, I went through postpartum depression with my son, and then with maybe a little bit with my youngest. And I'm going to be honest, now what I know now, I probably did go through it with my oldest. The issue with my oldest was that she was born 6 weeks early, and my mindset was trying to keep her healthy and alive. There were so many things that she had going on health-wise that I think that if I was going through postpartum depression, I didn't have a second to sit in it. See, my life when I had my daughter, my oldest, was different than what my life began or happened and how it unfolded for when I had the subsequent 2 children after her. And this is why I don't allow my oldest to suffer from the oldest sibling, where you got to go through all these hurts and, you got to raise your siblings and all that stuff, because I think, first of all, that's asinine. I know what it's like to feel like you're in charge of your sibling. And I loved being in charge of my siblings to a certain extent, because I always like to be in charge. But the weight of having to carry sometimes emotional, like holding them and carrying them and doing these certain things, wasn't always there. So let me just say, for my oldest, my life wasn't horrible with her. I had probably more physical support having her than I did with the other two subsequent children. But it's easier to give certain support when you have only one child. If I say, hey, can you watch my at the time, well, can you watch my daughter? I need to go to the grocery store. I need to pick up certain things. I just don't want to have to carry her in and out the grocery store. Well, my daughter was in the NICU for about a week or so. And so my parents or people around me, my friends and family, always decided to help me because, they felt like, okay, don't take her to the grocery store. It could be so many germs, blah, blah, blah. But by the time I got baby number 2 and baby number 3, that support system became less because I up and moved. I moved literally the day that I found out I was pregnant with my son. So I moved from my small town to Philadelphia and therefore started this whole nother wave now where I had more support in one place. I had the lack of emotional intelligence and some trauma that was being pushed as I became the mother of a second and then a third child. Why am I saying this? I am saying this because when it comes to mental health, when I think about self-care and think about the times when I said to myself, man, if I can just get this blog to pop, if I could just get somebody to see this content that I have in me, like all these different ideas, I really want to put this to, making sure this works. I really want to do this. And I cannot wait for the time where somebody will notice it. When I think about those times, I have that in the back of my mind when an opportunity comes my way. When I get an email that says, we would like to invite you, or we would like to collab, or different things. These are words that were never in my vocabulary because I never understood like how we see content creators now. Social media was a part of my world as I began to write my blog, but it wasn't as intense as it is now. We didn't get to really see the lives of our, favorite podcaster, our favorite blogger, our favorite content creator, because content creation, as far as a creator, wasn't a strong word. It wasn't something that was used. Bloggers were used most likely for anything. Let me tell you how many people had, so many were like, I'm a blogger. And if you check them, they never even had a website. Okay. And I remember those times when I was like, you know what, if I get the opportunity for somebody to invite me to the table, I promised that I would take that table and make sure that I highlighted so many people that are coming behind me. And I have done that. I have 2 mentees right now that I absolutely love. And I'm doing everything I can to pay it forward because there was no mentor for me as I came into the game. Nobody. It was just pretty much winging it. And then I began to come under certain organizations that then took many of their wings and showed me the ropes. And especially when it comes to how to market and how to put things out. So I'm grateful for the opportunities that come. And it's that gratefulness and that humbleness that doesn't allow me to ever feel cocky. Like there are times when I am like, okay, you are that girl. Yes, but not to the point of cockiness, not to the point where it's like you're belittling the people that are quote unquote behind you or underneath you. Never that. But yes, I can say with confidence, yes, I am that girl for sure. However, in being that girl, I don't have to overdo. I don't have to compromise. I don't have to cut people that are around me to get to a certain space or to get to a certain collaboration. I don't have to backstab people or stab people in their back just to make it or feel like I've accomplished anything. And so that I am super grateful for. That's number 1. So let's just share what I've been doing to take care of myself these past 2 weeks. 1, I realized that my therapy is working. I know I talk about therapy quite often because that is one of the major tools that is in my toolbox for self-care and mental health and wellness that I go to on a regular basis. I was doing therapy once a week. I'm now back to like just 2 times a month. So every other week. And that works for me. However, there has been 2 occasions within this 2-week process I will talk very vividly about. The first time it was feeling like I was having a mental breakdown, but it wasn't a mental breakdown. I only could describe it in the sense of saying that it was a mental breakdown when it was not. What it was awakening, okay? And I know that sounds like I'm being bougie for like, oh, you can't just say breakdown. It wasn't a breakdown. It was an awakening, and I'm going to tell you why. Has anybody seen the Kevin Hart's movie? I think it's called Fatherhood or Father. So the story goes where he is pregnant. Well, he's not pregnant. His wife is pregnant. They go into the hospital to have their child. They're not expecting to go. The doctor says, we're going to deliver today. They induce the woman, his wife, and they go into the hospital and they have the baby, and right after the baby is born, maybe a day, after the baby's born, she's getting up to go and see the baby, I believe probably in the nursery. And as she's getting up, she feels shortness of breath. So long story short, she passes away. And Kevin Hart is set to raise this child by himself, except for he doesn't know anything about raising this child, like most of us parents who didn't. And he's learning on the job like most of us parents have. When I've watched this story before, when I watched it the first time, I'm ugly crying in my house because in the delivery of all of my children, but specifically my youngest daughter, I had a very, very much near-death experience twice while having her. And so when I watched it the first time, I was focused on the mother dying. I was focused on seeing myself, God forbid I wasn't here, and how my children wouldn't have their mother. And so, of course, I'm ugly crying because I'm watching it from the perspective of a mother. Let's fast forward to a few weeks ago, meaning 2, because literally this happened 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago, I am in the house and I'm watching the movie again. This time I'm not focused. I already know that the mother is going to pass away, and I'm telling myself while I'm watching it, the mom's going to pass away. So when this part comes up, be prepared for it and get yourself together, get your mind right. Let's think, good thoughts. Let's be positive. But you know what the outcome is going to be. However, when I watched it the second time, I was more focused on the mothers that Kevin Hart had around him. So for instance, his mother was a great support system. She wasn't really hands-on too much. She didn't kind of do a lot, but she was hands-on. But his mother-in-law was more like direct. Now, if you've seen the movie before, then you know that a lot of that had to do with the fact that, his wife, Kevin Hart's wife in the movie, passed away, but that was her daughter. So, of course, when this new baby is here, her daughter's not here. She wants to basically step in and do what she feels is going to be in the best interest of what her daughter would have wanted. And in the midst of this, she's grieving too, just like Kevin Hart's character is grieving as well. So I don't know. Let me not say I don't know, because my therapist is telling me, like, we're talking about this whole, I don't know. We do know. I do know. On Mother's Day weekend, I believe we talked about since Mother's Day. So on Mother's Day weekend, a lot of things that I did was really just pour back into my cup, because it was also coming off the cusp of my birthday. My birthday always flows into Mother's Day. And so like we normally do, we went to go visit my mother-in-law. My husband's mother had passed years ago. And we go to the gravesite religiously. So we, of course, are going to go for Mother's Day. So this particular situation, we went, and normally I stand there to support him and all the things. I will stand next to him. Sometimes I'll say little words here and there. But for this first time, after he was done, he was like, did you want to go out by yourself and sit with her and, do whatever you're going to do? You don't have to do anything. You could just sit there. And I said, yes. So I had a real conversation about what I thought our relationship would look like while she was here, and the fact that it did not look that way. And then the fact that she's not here and all the things that have taken place since that, and just how the family dynamic has been, and just how just the pain and suffering that everybody else was feeling. But I also made it personal because, outside of going into the specifics of just the drama and all the stuff back and forth between me and her, the bigger issue was that I've always longed for her to be a part of my world. The issue was that, when you're going through postpartum or you're not checking your emotions, you got so many other things. And I'm the type of person is I can be petty. And not only can I be petty, let me go ahead and admit that. Not only can I be petty, I'm also vindictive. So I will hold on to something that's being said 3 months ago back. Not now, but definitely then. And so I'm having this conversation. So I felt like at the time, I'm like, I feel good. I feel free. Let's go home. I'm going to go back on, it's my Mother's Day too. So I'm going to just go chillax at the house. I don't want to go nowhere. I don't want to do anything. I just want to have a couple glasses of a couple cocktails and call it a day. And that's what I did. So in the midst of watching this movie, I am watching it from the perspective of the mother, Kevin Hart's deceased wife's mother, his mother-in-law, aka, and then his mother. And it was such a I have never in my adult life felt so strongly where I felt like I needed my own mother. So I am getting emotional. I could feel myself getting emotional. My husband wasn't feeling well at the time. And so I go up to him. And here's the thing, for years since his mother passed, I try not to have as many conversations in front of him with my mother, on the phone or anything like that. I do have some, but not many. And in the beginning, when my mother-in-law first passed, I had literally no conversations with my mother in front of him. And I kind of think in the beginning, and for a while, for years, I think she kind of understood that. So she would just hurry up and get off the phone. Now, my mother is also the type who will get off the phone because, she respects the fact that I'm married. She respects the fact that I have a family. So when we talk, we kind of like fit it in between the day when I'm not around my kids or I'm not around the husband. And then when it comes time for them to talk to them as kids, then that's a whole nother conversation. But I felt so strong. It hit me so vividly that I was like, you know what? I want my mom. Now, there are also some friends around me who have been losing their mom, or one that's in the midst of losing her mother. And between these emotional pools, I had this strong urge to get in my car and go see my mom. Now, I didn't want nothing specifically. There wasn't anything that I wanted. But I'm telling you, if it wasn't for God and my husband being home, I would have gotten in my car and drove to see my mother, who lives almost 2 hours away, because the instinct feeling of I need her right now, nothing else would do, I don't want anything else, was super strong. So I go to my husband. Again, I try to avoid any type of conversations about motherhood, or anything with him. Not because he's not capable, not because of all those things, but out of my own personal guilt. So I'm looking at him. The emotion was strong, but I held it in. And then when I laid next to him, I broke out crying. And I never said anything to him. I never had a conversation with him about what the issue was. But the real issue is that I wanted to be or see my mother. And I almost got in my car to go and see him. Now, fast forward a few days after I had this enormous feeling, I wanted to go see my mom. I wanted to get in the car and just be like, I'm out. I wanted to call my therapist and try to get an emergency appointment because it was so uncomfortable for me. Honestly, there's no other way around it. I felt uncomfortable. So let's fast forward to the fact that after that, a few days later, I explained the situation to my mother about how I felt, which I normally would not have done. I would not. And so I'm explaining to her how I was feeling, how overwhelmed I was, and just everything. And then her comfort of saying, well, you could have just called, I would have answered, almost nearly broke me. Okay, so that's week number 1. I was going through, these emotions were being pulled out it just felt like it came from the middle of nowhere. But it was a trigger, and I was being triggered. And I'm so grateful that, 1, I never got in contact with my therapist. Number 2, I didn't speak to my mom about it until a few days later. I was able to sit in the uncomfortableness of all of that. And when I got done with all of that, I decided to sit down and write my thought processes out about how I felt in that moment, because I needed to put it to paper. I didn't write it up, didn't make a blog post, didn't do any of that, but I had to write out how I truly felt. I had to get to the point where I was honest. I had to be honest about the situation because it was overwhelming. Okay, so that's week number 1 where I was on hiatus. So many things were happening. Let's fast forward to this past week, which is week 2. I was out of commission because my husband ended up getting sick. He experienced a medical emergency, something I had absolutely never seen with the things that he needs. I got hit so hard and heavy with this thing that it came out in the middle of nowhere. Nothing is more stressful in life than to get a conversation from a stranger that you've never met. Whether they were coworkers or not, they are people I have never met. Call me and tell me that my husband is in distress. And not being able to get to him right away, the stress that I felt, I can't even bottle it up and sell it if I wanted to, because it was overwhelming. But here's a few things that I've learned about the situation, about myself in the midst of the situation. As women, as mothers, as caregivers, as all these things, we do a good job of learning how to take care of the things when they matter, right? So jumping up and doing all the things that had to be done, being at the hospital with him as he was in there for a few days, all those things, that's normal. Being able to keep my emotions personally, this is just a personal proclamation for me to keep my emotions in check, to be the things that my kids needed at the time, and to continue to make sure that I do those things. I don't count that. I literally do not count that as a miss, because I was super scared from the time I got the phone call. And I'm going to be honest, up until now, I'm still on the struggle bus. I'm still driving the struggle bus every day when it concerns that man. Because you're talking about a husband, a man who has never really had any real major sickness. I have never known my husband to go to the hospital outside of like maybe getting stitches, outside of like one car accident that we were in together, and then stitches. That's it. He'll get a man cold if you know, but outside of that, nothing major, nothing. And to have that phone call take place to set my world in a tailspin, I'm going to have to be honest. This is not any direct hit to anybody, but to everybody at the same time. How I handle a situation may not be the situation that everybody wants to have that handled that way. Meaning, if you don't trust how I've handled a situation concerning anybody that lives in this home, I'm going to hold your hand with ammonia in it when I tell you that is a problem that you got to go to God for. Because I'm not going to make every decision. I'm not going to lead everything the correct way that somebody else feels like that I should lead. And let me tell you why. They and anybody else who had any concerns or questions or conversations regarding how the situation was handled, I think it needs to be understood. It's something that I've been repeating to the people who have asked. There is no right or wrong way to handle a situation, especially when then everything in the moment and then the moments after is showing you that you might have to really figure out how to make life work for even a small amount of time by yourself. Everything that was on my plate magnified the day that I got the phone call to this up degree. I run an online business. I have to show up. I have things in place that I have already said I said yes to, that I was going to supposedly show up to, that I did not show up to. Yes, that makes sense that I didn't show up to it. Nobody is disputing that. I think people are forgetting the fact that I have 3 children that I also have to manage. 3 active children that I have to manage. And this is not about them getting from point A to point B, although that was a struggle in itself. This is about managing emotions. And I'm going to say this very vividly. A lot of the things that are going on when it comes to how my house or our house moves is not going to make sense to a lot of people. It's never supposed to, because it's about protecting those who live in this home and keeping everybody that don't live in this home to a space. Let me repeat that. Everybody that lives in this house is our responsibility, my husband and I's responsibility, to make sure that they are healthy and they have all the things. But sometimes our decision-making process as a couple may not make sense to a lot of different people, but it makes sense for what we're trying to accomplish in this home. I am not the only one in my home that has anxiety. I am not the only one in my home that stresses out. I am not the only one in my home that deals with seasonal depression. And because there are other people and other factors that are being taken place, I'm sorry that people have felt like I should have called them. I'm sorry that people felt that I should have done more. But I'm also going to take a little step back and remind people. If my husband says he doesn't want folks called, I'm not calling you. I don't care what that sounds like. I have tried to be very diplomatic to a lot of people, but I'm going to be very honest. When we married each other, we said for better or for worse. And my husband made it very clear. There's a phrase that he says to me every day, is me and you against the world. And I have taken that to my serious of series. Okay. I'm not playing games. So when my husband and I make a decision, or when my husband, who's the leader of this home, because that's how I roll, when he makes a decision, I'm going to follow it until he gives me a reason not to. Then we can have a conversation. Outside of that, I'm going to follow it. And especially when it comes to whom should be contacted when something is going through with him. See, when things are going through with me, there has been times in our marriage where it hasn't always been honored. But we learned through trial and error. We learn to honor our spouses. And a lot of folks get that real confused when it comes to honoring your spouses. Y'all know how to honor your spouses when it comes to the marriage, the wedding day, right? And you look real good. You do all that thing and you say those cute words. But let me also share something with you. Honoring your spouse is also keeping what your spouse doesn't need to be shouted out to the world, and keeping certain things that need to be into the house. And that is how I'm honoring my spouse. And the same for him with me. Because we've been through those points where we didn't always have that, and it caused a rift in our marriage. So for anybody that is outside of this marriage who were not a part of the 3-chord fold, let me break this down to you. Between Jesus, me and him, that's it. Our kids, we love, but they're not a part of our marriage, so they are not a part of that covenant. I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for anything that's being said or done when it comes to how we move here in this home, because that's not how I roll. And I'm going to be nice about it, but I'm going to be very stern when I say I'm going to make the best decision according to what needs to be done and according to a conversation that my husband and I have had. And that goes for even from here and even at death. I promise to uphold what my husband and I have said. I also have legality behind me by making sure my paperwork and documents are A1, because I want people to honor me and what I said. And when it comes to our marriage, that's just what it's going to be. Now, I know this is a world where everybody want to jump the ship every 2.3. And I'm not saying that there ain't been times when I've been like, you know what, this ain't working. I'm maybe need to be out. But when I'm in, I'm in. And as long as I'm married, I'm going to follow the things that me and him have put together. And it don't matter if it don't make sense to a lot of folk. So when people continue to say, you should have done, I'm going to remind you, I'm going to repeat this one more time so we don't have to repeat this no more again. I am going to honor my spouse by honoring and keeping what he would like for me to be said, and what's not to be said will never be said. Okay, so I know most people can understand that. You don't got to be married to understand that. It's called being a partner. And as a partner, I'm going to do the things that my partner needs. Now, if ever there's a time where my partner is incapacitated and cannot make the decision, and we have not had certain discussions about certain things, or I need to override at the moment, depending upon what is best for the health and the mental load and all the things for everybody involved, I will do what's necessary. But we ain't gonna never let the necessary occur. Not here, partner, not here. So let that be known, let that be said, so we don't have to repeat this. I've only listen, and at this point, I'm just copying the same message and sending it to everybody, because I said what needed to be said respectfully. I have always given people the utmost respect to people who've been trash humans to me. I've always been very respectful. So I'm going to say this. This is personal, but I'm saying this very clearly. I've always respected. I have never needed to disrespect anybody, and I don't want nobody to disrespect me. Okay. And so what I'm going to say is that I'm never going to have this conversation again about why something wasn't said, why something wasn't done. I'm never going to have this conversation again, because I'm going to say the same thing multiple times. And I'm at a point where I'm at a broken record, because I'm not saying it no more. Okay. I'm going to respect my spouse, and my spouse is going to respect me, and whatever we have come together, whether you understand it or not, it's not meant for me to be understood. Okay, so that's what's been going on for this last 2 weeks. That is the stress, the mental load, the things that I had on my plate, the things that are weighing in my spirit, and the things that have been happening with the people who I love and those who live in this house. Okay, I can't help how people move in their houses. Nothing I can say about that. I got opinions about it, just like people got opinions about me. But I'm going to touch the tip of your nose and remind people that's where the power that you have stops, at the tip of your nose. You can't do nothing, not even with your spouse, beyond them giving you the power to do something, because you don't have that power beyond the tip of your nose. And so because of that, I just want us to remember that, put that in the back of your mind. All right. Lastly, in these last 2 weeks, opportunities. I'm grateful. If it looks like, I know it never looks like that, because I do so much and I have so much content that sits and things that I need to post, that sometimes it looks like I'm in these streets every day. Let me just reassure you, I am not. I've made a very clear distinction and very clear declaration that in 2025, that I was not going to move in the same lengths, in the same spaces, in the same way that I moved before. And I have kept that word to myself. This isn't about nobody else. This is not about nothing. I've kept that word. And let me tell you something about keeping that word. Everything that has taken place and has happened around that declaration that I made has also allowed me to stand 10 toes down on what I said. See, I love being grown. See, I used to be an adult. You know, you could be adult. You could be a grownish age. You can be an adult age, but being grown and being an adult are two different things. And of course, you learn that from trial and error. Like my mom said, you ain't grown until you're grown. And I never understood that till I got grown. As a grown person, I can make decisions and also stand by that decision. And unless the road gets weary, most of the time I'm going to be able to carry out the weight of that decision, because that is what's being grown. See, I was an adult before, a very immature adult. Always want to be argumentative, always want to fight, always want to make something to a thing. But as a grown woman in my 40s, ma'am and sir, I am not about to sit up here and repeat myself more than once. Just not going to do it. And I know somebody's going to roll up on my DM or call me or say something like, oh, you think you're grown. Let me reassure you, I don't think nothing. I am very much grown. We're not thinking grown. We is grown. Because as you grow, you become more mature. So you don't got to start a fight about every little thing. You ain't got to make everything into a thing. You can just simply live and let the chips fall where they may. Being grown. And in being grown, I've made very certain that there are certain things I'm not going to be putting up with. Just certain things I'm just not going to be put up with. If you even look like you're about to be disrespectful, like by just 5 seconds of your tone, I promise you I ain't got time for it. I'm not tapping in. I'm not doing none of that. Because I don't have to. I'm simply going to remove myself. For the sake of everybody that's involved, I'm going to remove myself. And here's the thing. I've been living my life in peace for the last couple of years, that at any given point, anybody that I don't necessarily mess with or fool with on a regular basis, there's no need for you to. Let me just say this publicly. I know this is a very personal episode. I'm going to be quite honest with you. This is very personal. It's just going to get personal and deep. Just cut it to the quick. Do not ask me for a hookup. Let me say that one more time. Do not ask me for a hookup when you have not talked to me in 30 days. Let me repeat that one more time because I'm grown enough and ain't nothing y'all can do. Do not ask me for no hookup when you have not spoken to me in 30 days. What does that mean? Some folks I don't speak to on a regular basis. And I mean, do not speak to them in a regular basis. I'm always going to be sweet as pie, high and by. I love the spirit of high and I love that spirit of by, high and by. But you and I both know there's no relationship there whatsoever outside of responsibilities, outside of titles. So if we had that type of relationship, do not ask me for a hookup because I have no problems of telling you, hell no. Hell to the no. Do not ask me for a hookup. You know we're not built like that. We don't have no relationship like that. You don't support my business. You've never reposted nothing that I've ever posted. You don't comment. You don't share. You don't like. And let me be honest, I can also see who likes and who shares, especially when it's like on a Facebook. I can see specifically who shared something, who commented. You ain't never done that. You don't share my stuff. You don't even speak light about me. You always got something negative to say. Do not ask me for a hookup. Do not ask me. Don't go to listen, do not go to my husband and ask him to ask me because I'm going to remind my husband of the conversations that we have had about this. It's a hell no. So I don't care if you go to him. You're not going to get a hookup through him, through me. I promise you, there is no hookups around here. I have given and done so much for so many people in my space and world because they are supportive of me, my dreams, the things that I'm working on. They speak highly of me. At least they fake it until they make it. Some of y'all don't even fake it till y'all make it, but have your hand out asking for a hookup. Don't ask me. I can't get you a ticket to something. I can't get you. You know the chef? Sorry, 99 I do, but there's nothing for you. I can't take you to the dinner with me. You cannot go to an event with me. Do not ask. Okay, these are boundaries that have to be set because here's the problem. Sometimes when you don't set boundaries, you're the one that's mad about, I can't believe they did that again. But aren't you the one to let them do it? I can't believe I let them back in my world. Aren't you the one to open the door? Like they knocked. Yes, people knock every day. People call your phone every day. You don't got to answer that phone just because it ring don't mean you got to answer it. Let me say that one more time. I know people call you. You don't have to answer. People can knock on a door. You don't have to let them in. So when you keep allowing people to come into your space and then get mad that they're in there, did you ask yourself, did you let them in? Didn't you open the door? Well, I was trying to be nice. Well, shut that door and then lock the key and get rid of it because some people are meant to just be like, listen, we ain't going to never get along and that's okay, but let's be cordial. Let's keep it pushing. I love those. I have plenty of those people in my life. I'm like, listen, let's keep it a bean, especially when my kids is around. Don't act the fool and I won't act the fool. But do not act like we not friends. And even if we're family by marriage and or by family or some type of relationship to that level where you believe that we are a family, I want to share this with you. I'm still not giving out a hookup. I'm just not. I'm not going to do it. So I got to be clear that the boundaries are set. If you have not spoken to me in a month of Sundays, do not call me for no hookup. I ain't got no tickets for you. I ain't got no, maybe I can get you in. Maybe Toy can put in a word. Oh, can you ask your wife? Don't ask his wife to do anything, because his wife is going to tell him and remind him that I said no. And if he needs me to say the no, I'm willing to do so. I am in the spirit of boundaries. I'm on my boundaries. Get the hell back. Because so many times in the past, I never set those boundaries, and I'm giving my husband the earful. You know why does we do that? We're like, I can't believe they. But 9 times out of 10 and 10 times out of 9, I'm the one that's opening the door. They knock, I open the door. They call, I answer the phone. They say they want to make a difference. They want to change. We want to be friends. We're going to be family again. It's family. It's family over everything. People say that family over everything, and that literally gets underneath my skin, because I'm going to tell you something. Family over everything is a joke to a lot of people. Because when that everything looks a little sweet, they will put that family down and go grab what's sweet to them. So I don't do that family over everything. So please don't come on with family over everything. We family. We going to always be family. We going to always be related to some extent. But we don't always got to be hanging out with each other. We don't got to put my foot up underneath your table. There are some family members I ain't never even seen they leave. I done heard that they done moved. I ain't been to their house yet. And don't have no plans on doing so. But I wish everybody well. Therapy has been such a blessing. Because if you would have asked me any of these types of conversation, I might have said it just because I felt it like, oh, I ain't going to let them talk to me like that no more. I'm just going to tell them to stop. I ain't doing all that. I don't even have to convince myself. I just simply am putting the boundary in place. So do not ask me for a hookup. Stop asking me why I didn't do certain things that you thought I should have done, because that ain't it. Okay, I want to lastly talk about this content creation space. And you can insert whatever it is that you have a dream of doing into its place. Opportunities are everywhere. Now, you can sit back and say, I'm not going to post, I'm not going to be consistent, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. That's fine. What's meant for you will never miss you. I believe that 100%. But there's plenty of people who are like, I wish I had this opportunity, that are not working hard to get it. I know. You can have a viral video go out and you can feel like you're on top of the world. But what are you going to do to maintain it? I'm more concerned about making sure that I have a certain messaging go out than making sure that I only go viral, right? Everybody wants to go viral. So for me to sit there and say, I don't care about going viral, that's a lie. We all want to have those moments. But anything that's going to impede or cause me any ill will, any of these things that's happening in the content creation space, where again, I'm not being consistent, but I want consistent results. Stop that. You're not posting consistently. You're posting once a month. And if that is your cadence, let me just say that there are some people who that is just their thing. So maybe they do a 1 month check-in. Hey, it's May. Hey, it's June. Hey, I'm just giving proof of life. That's all well and good. But there are the many people who want certain things that they're not working to get. You want to be able to go on a brand trip, but you're not also posting certain brands and the brands in the same type of family. Let's say if you're a lifestyle blogger. Lifestyle is very open. I'm a lifestyle blogger, mental health and wellness, right? I can talk about anything going on with my life. I can showcase any part of my life and be considered a lifestyle blogger. You can be creative. You can do this. You can do that. Lifestyle blogger. But let's say I was a food blogger only. I only deal with food, drinks. That's all I deal with. Let's just say that was the case. But yet you go to a restaurant, you'll never showcase it. Or you don't say, hey, these are this week's holidays that are deal with food, and here's ways to celebrate it. Like, you can be creative, right? You don't do none of these types of things. There's no creativity. There's none of this happening. And then all of a sudden, you're like, well, I can't believe so-and-so got invited to the table. Well, what are you doing so that you can be seen? Now, let me be clear. Sometimes people want to be seen. They do all the wrong things for some strange things for change. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm talking about to stay connected to what your purpose is and then be consistent in that purpose. Are you doing that? Because sometimes y'all be complaining about y'all not getting certain things, but then you're not doing certain things. But then there's a flip. There's always a flip. There's always a middle. You can be doing all the right things. You're just not catching the right people's eyes. So then you need to say, okay, how can I clean up my content? How can I make it more inviting? How can I make it more relatable? And not just on a let me do the latest trends. Trends are great, but can you take a trend and then make it personable to what you're putting out in the atmosphere? If you could do that, then you're golden. But if you're only looking to do trends, it may not work out for you. If you are trying to step into something new, something you've never done before, you're going to have to do something that you've never done before in order to maintain it. There's a lot of incoming content creators that want this life. But if you don't treat every collab, whether it's paid, whether it is exchange for gifts, if you're not going to treat everything that you get as if it was a campaign for the biggest, whoever your dream brand is, if you were gifted that dream brand, how would your content change? Would you be more focused on the fact that you're doing this, collaboration or whatever it is that you're doing? And are you not able to take that same focus and put that into the things that you're doing behind the scenes? Why do you think that behind the scenes videos do so well? Because people are superly concerned about how people are making things happen. And I want us to get comfortable with understanding that we can't do everything. Every opportunity that is out there can't always be for us, meaning that there's certain things that just don't fit. And when you see somebody doing something that seems like it's so extraordinary and you want a piece of that, quote unquote, and it doesn't happen, I want us to be okay and get to the point where we understand that we don't have to beat ourselves up for wanting certain things and then seeing somebody else do it and then having a spirit of jealousy or not rooting for your fellow person in that field. Like, I want us to get comfortable with seeing people win without feeling away. Now, I'm not telling you that you can't see somebody win and be like, you know what, I'm going to get that next year. I'm going to be at that. Do that. That is speaking something into existence, as long as you're also willing to do the work. If you're willing to do the work and work hard, but also know that it may not happen. What if you get to something, it doesn't happen, you worked hard, and now you're mad because I did the work and it didn't work. Maybe that decision, maybe that situation, maybe that collaboration, whatever is going on is just not for you, and that's okay. I really want us to get comfortable with seeing people win without being attacked, feeling like it's somehow some detriment to us, because it's not. It's not a detriment to us. It's uplifting. It's the ability to know what's possible, and then to find ways to make whatever you're possible. Like, those are the types of things I want us to focus on, because so many times you will see people doing things and you're like, you know what, I wish I would have done that. Somebody needs to give me their contact. I want to do this. I want to do that. Don't be the type of person that's underhanded. Don't be the type that's underhanded. Well, give me your contact just for you to go in there and just so you could prove you could do it. Like, have good intentions. Because when you have good intentions, opportunities will knock on your door that don't even make sense. People who you think is not even paying attention to you will be paying attention to you. It just will not make sense, but it will be worth it. So I want us to get very comfortable of being okay watching other people win without attaching ourselves to their win. I had a person that was a content creator. I'm not sure if she still does content creation. And her whole thing was like how she put this other content creator on. So she put this other content creator on, and this content creator is doing leaps and bounds. And so the frustration from her was, I'm the one who put him on, and now he's doing A, B, and C. Well, here's the thing. If you're going to mentor somebody or take somebody underneath your wings, you got to be comfortable with them selling and even doing better in expectations than you are. That just shows you were able to mentor. Then you can be able to take that same energy and apply that to you. But we cannot continue to hold people back and say somebody owes you something because you said their name in a room. Unless they were, getting a referral, nobody owes you anything. If somebody comes into a content creation space and they're doing better than you and you put them on, that just means you did what you were supposed to do. And having that humble heart about that will cause every opportunity that's supposed to be there will open the door and flood it, versus you having animosity because you felt like you put somebody on. That type of mentality will never serve you. It just won't. It won't serve you. So let's be very careful about how we show up for people when they're winning. And let's be very careful that there are 1,001 different ways to have different experiences, right? And so we want to make sure that we are very clear. Doesn't matter what field you're in. Doesn't matter what you're trying to do. Keep in mind, there are 1,001 ways, like they say, to skin a cat. Do not actually skin a cat. Let me put that that out there so somebody don't say I told you to do that. I am saying the phrase of there's 1,001 ways to skin a cat, which just simply means is that there's more than one way to get to the winner's circle. Because what I think is a win may not be a win for you, and vice versa. Okay. So yes, this was a very personal episode. And I had to catch y'all up to figure out what's going on, but also let people know, stop playing with me and this family and just things in general. Like, do you let everybody do what they're going to do? If people put more emphasis and worried about the things that are going in their own home, I find that homes would be better. I'm very much into making sure that the people in my house don't feel like I'm out here in all these content creation spaces, but I mistreated them at home. I'm very much into making sure that while I'm out here in these streets and I'm getting these brand deals and I'm making this money and I'm doing these things, that while I'm doing that, I'm not talking to my husband sideways. While I'm doing that, I'm not mistreating the people that have been supporting me from day one. That while I'm doing that, I'm not shitting on the next person that's coming behind me because I don't want them to win, because how dare they? Like, I want to make sure that as a person, just a regular human being, whether I had these things going on in my life or not, that I can actually act right. Okay? Because that's how you continue to get blessings, when you're on that spirit to act right. When you ain't on that act right, doesn't work the way it needs to work. So with that being said, this is the episode for this week. I am truly grateful. Listen, this has been a very stressful 2 weeks with a lot of highs, a lot of lows, a lot of checkmates, a lot of checking in, a lot of all those things. But what I am grateful for is that husband and wife team that we have made, and we're making sure that we don't let everybody into the circle. I'm sorry, you can't get in the club. I'm sorry, you cannot. But I will say that we're getting to the place where that club that we have created is creating space and peace, because it wasn't always like that. I have said this in a blog post, I believe, a couple months ago, about how we've had this last year has been tumultuous. Like, it was a lot. And there was times when I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and get this exit plan popping. Let me go ahead and get this exit. Let me go ahead and do that. Let me just go ahead and let me do that. Let me get this popping. But I realized more and more how necessary it is to do the right thing for yourself. And it may not feel good to everybody else. One thing I'm learning is that I don't need to say anything but the basics. When I find that I'm over explaining, and this is actually a trauma, this is literally a trauma bond. Like, let me just explain this to you so you get it real quick before we end. It could be a fear of misunderstanding or having somebody misunderstand you, or feeling rejected, which is usually the same thing. And it's a trauma response. When you feel that you're always at fault, that you've done something wrong, and because of that, you want to over-explain so that you feel like you've given them the right answer, it's literally a trauma response. And I've been realizing that more and more. So I don't give more details than necessary anymore. I'm going to tell you what it is, and that's it. I don't got to go into no details. I'm going to be like, look, see me, hear me. I don't do all that, because I'm a recovered people-pleasing person, where you feel like you need people to see you in a certain light, so you go over and above. I'm not going over and be above for people who don't even go 2 miles away. I don't do anything for anybody like that. Going over and above for people who won't even do the bare bone basics is literally going to cause you so much issues. And it takes a while to get to that point. You got to go through some things. You got to get to that point where you're like, you focused on the fact that this doesn't make sense. I'm telling you, this is why I don't over explain anymore. My responses are truly basic. I don't go into a lot of anything. I keep it basic. Because even if I keep it basic or I gave an elaborate answer, people are going to be dead set on what they believe. If they believe that you had whatever intention, it don't matter what you say. So that's why I've given up the whole, let me just say, no, I'm not doing that. Just like I said tonight, straight like that. Because at the end of the day, I'm not over explaining anything. If you can't catch what I'm dropping, it wasn't meant for you to be in the game with me. So that is the episode. I wish everybody well. Hopefully we'll have some better news in these next couple of weeks with all the things that are going on. In the meantime, like I said today, if you are listening to this podcast, which I hope you are going to be in for a treat. I'm going to talk about my speaking engagement next week, because I am speaking today at a conference on a panel. And I love opportunities like this. It just reminds me of, again, them days of changing them diapers and crying and postpartum depression and saying, Lord, if you just give me a chance, if somebody would just be able to give me 5 seconds of a chance, I promise you I'll do. And I have been doing it ever since. I promise I would do it right. And I'm trying to do as best as I can. Like, I ain't perfect, like nobody is, but trying to do something right when you've had no opportunity and then having the opportunity to have opportunities. This is why I put people on. This is why I'm mentoring people. This is why I'm doing the things that need to be done, because I want somebody else to struggle less like I had to get it out the mud, like they say. But I wouldn't have it any other way, because it keeps me humble. It keeps me not thinking that I'm bigger than the team. I'm not doing the most, and but I'm also making sure that I enjoy the process, enjoy the flow, enjoy how this is working out. So that is the podcast for this week. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your love and messages. I promise you we are going to be okay. And in the meantime, I will see you next week with Conversations with Toy.
Thank you as always for joining me, and I know that even in the deepest or joyful conversations that there's something we can learn and apply. Until next time, I hope that you are doing better. If not, we will be back to talk some more and handle it. Peace to you and yours. Stay grounded.